If you've been struggling in the ranks and you don't know what you're doing wrong, this is a perfect video for you. Here are 3 tips for every rank. And with that being said, let's hop right into the video. Tip number 1 for bronze is flexing. You gotta flex. Find one character you have fun with in each role. Don't think about how good they are, don't think about how they're meta or not. Just find a character that you have fun playing. So if you don't have one of those characters in your role, say we have 4 DPS, no tanks, you have a fun tank to play. So you have no supports, you have a fun supports play. It is better your odds at winning by so much. Tip number 2, look to play safe. Don't try to be a superhero. Don't try to win and carry your team right out the back. Just play with the team, play safe. If you're support, play near your other support. If you're in the tank, look to be in line of sight of your healers. And if you're DPS, look to stay in the middle of the action. Don't look to overextend, dive the back like a crazy person. Play safe. And tip number 3 is just the easiest tip you're gonna get for bronze, is just play the game. Honestly, you can just queue up matches and eventually the game will just come to you naturally. You'll start to understand how it's played, you'll start understanding the objectives, what characters do what. Just play the game and you'll better understand it. Moving on to silver, tip 1, play easy characters. Now, if you're having a hard time learning the game and understanding, and it's moving too much at a fast pace for you, you want to slow it down with some easy characters like Groot, Chef the Shark, Scarlet Witch, or even someone like Squirrel Girl. Now, at a base level, all these characters are very simple to play. No too hard aiming mechanics, no insane gameplay, but they have a lot of value. Tip 2 is obviously going to be playtime. When you're silver, you probably have not too much playtime and understanding of the game, the objectives, the best way to play it, and stuff like ultimate tracking, or just what characters usually do. So one of your objectives should just be to lock in some hours under any characters you're trying to learn. Moving on to tip 3, it kind of plays in with playtime and what I just went over, but as more so understanding the roster. Now you want to understand what some characters do to better play around them, right? Like some characters are pretty easy to understand right off the rip, like Widow. You want to hide behind cover, don't be in open areas. But someone like Namor might be not so easy to deal with. But once you learn his character, you realize he's really good at holding a line of defense and really good against anti-flanker comps, as his turrets have auto aim. Now on to gold. Tip 1, look to main a role, whether that's support, tank, or DPS. You need to have a role locked in. Now flexing is something you're gonna have to do through all the ranks, but you wanna have a good role that you put all your hours into, because you're gonna be looking to get that role at the start of most of your matches. Don't flex until you're forced to flex. Tip number 2, you're gonna find a few mains in the roles. Whether you're a DPS, whether that's Namor, Iron Man, Scarlet, you're going to want to play that character most of the time. More playtime obviously just leads to better understanding leads to better performance, and better performance leads to just more consistent wins. Tip number 3 for gold is this is where team fights are going to really matter and ultimates are going to become a huge part of that. So it's going to be get the most out of your ultimates. Now don't be throwing your ultimates away. If you're a DPS, look to see what you're getting off your ultimate. There's a lot of times I'm seeing Punishers use their ultimate and they know their supports are dead. Or I see a Punisher use their ultimate and there's no support utility being used at the time, right? Or a Psylocke who goes to the back of the line and don't check if the enemy support has their ultimates being used. A good rule of thumb is knowing what situation best to get your ultimate out of and always looking to use it there. Don't spam your ult just because you have it. Wait for the right time. So that means if you're a DPS player, look to get 1 or 2 picks. You don't need the whole team, just 1 or 2, and that will win you a team fight. If you're a support player, look to hold your ultimate. I'm mainly talking to the Luna and Mantis players. You know your ult's good at keeping your team alive. Wait for Psylocke to jump on you guys, boom. Wait for Punisher to ultimate. Wait for Star-Lord to pop his ultimate. Just wait it out. Understand why you're using your ultimate. And for tank players, if you can get a pick, create space, that's most likely what you're looking for. Your ultimates are usually not the game-changing ultimates. They're usually look to make openings for your team. So look to make plays. Now at plat, we're moving on to the more difficult ranks. All right. Tip number 1, look for teammate synergy. Now I know you're used to just playing characters who are your strengths or just flexing, but if any of your characters have a synergy, say like Hela with Thor and Loki, look to pick that character. Synergies have a very, very strong role in this game. Even taking some characters from like Iron Man, who's like a low B tier, maybe low A tier character, to an S character with a synergy with Hulk, becomes someone who can just laser down enemies. In the long run, I do think this is a good tip to keep in mind because I know this game's going to further add more synergies and buff and nerf them very strongly. Tip number 2 is understand your role. Now this means two different things. This goes for your character and the role you play in game, whether that's support or DPS. But for example, say you're a support like Mantis. Mantis' role is to buff her teammates, give them damage, and keep some healing on most of her teammates. But her role can easily switch from a backliner to a scrimmager due to her high DPS output. In higher ranks, Mantises will not be scared to go up and 1v1 some DPSs. I'm not lying. Or we could talk about another role like divers on the DPS. Whether you're playing Psylocke or you're playing Black Panther, your main goal is to either pick off a very strong target on the enemy team and either build up to your ult if you're Psylocke, or look to pick off a healer like Black Panther because he gets it done so easy. And the better you play your role, the better your matches will lead to easier outcomes. It's just knowing what you're doing, using most of the time in the match to your advantage. Now this is a hard tip for tip number 3 for Plat, but you're going to need it for the higher ranks, and that's hopping on the mic. Now in Plat, you don't necessarily need to hop on the mic the entire match and calm out exactly what you're doing, but letting the enemy know who's on flank on the mic, letting them know where your ult charge is, or just a plan you have going before the next fight, it can lead to some crazy easy wins. Now I will say there is a current problem with Marvel Rivals. A lot of egos, a bias, people queuing up and dogging other people. If you've encountered toxic players, the best I say is just immediately mute them. Don't keep them on, don't argue with them. Some matches are going to be like that, and you're going to have some tilters. Those matches might just end up being losses, but that is the randomness of solo queuing. Now on to Diamond, where people start to take the game very serious. Tip number 1, review or watch your VODs. In this game, they give you crazy access to your past games, like your entire play history, like up to 20 matches. You can go back at any time, review them, which you should be looking to review though. Your positioning, your target priority, and your ultimate usage. Learning how to use those betters will improve your gameplay tremendously. If you're realizing, alright, I wasn't targeting the best person in this situation, I'm not using my ultimate in the best case scenario right here, or I was just caught out myself, like just caught out too extended out of healer's line of sight. These will play a major factor in just the overall improvement. Tip number 2, know the meta. Now this is where bans come into play. And right now, if you're watching this in season 0, the current bans are like stuff like either Psylocke, Hela, Hawkeye, maybe Black Panther, if you have like if you face off against a good Black Panther main. And sometimes even the healers. Now I leave the healers alone, but some people are very tired of the Luna Mantis meta of going back and forth with heals. But mainly I like to ban the characters who can take over the game very strongly. Tip number 3, know your mental. Now knowing your mental will go a long way in any rank, but with Diamond, there's a certain breed of people with egos in this game. I have tilted my way from GM all the way to Diamond 3 at one point because I just was so fed up and I'm like, no, I can't. People will just lose games the first round. They'll call it quits. They'll say GG after a bad hole. Like it is tremendous. It is bad. And if you're a person that gets stressed easily or upset easily, after 2 losses in a row, call it quits, come back in 30. Now this is for every rank after Diamond, as they kind of all fall into the same category. We have GM, Eternity, and a 1 above all. Tip 1 is you're going to want to scrim. And now I understand if you just don't want to compete, but playing in a structured environment with comms will just help you improve and help you be a better teammate overall. And plus it gets you extra playtime on characters you're more comfortable with. In GM plus lobbies, most likely you're going to have to want to fill. Sometimes there might be enough tank players on, enough supports on, or even sometimes not even enough DPS on. Scrims will give you that extra playtime you need to master your character. Tip number 2, I hate to say this, but you're going to need a duo or trio to survive in these ranks. Like I just said, you're not always guaranteed your role, but you can easily cut that down depending on who you queue with. I recommend if you're going to duo, have someone who's obviously another role. Never duo the same role, like never 2 DPS players in duo queue. Most likely one of you guys are going to have to flex. What I recommend is a perfect strategy. If you're doing trio, 1 goes tank, 1 goes DPS, and 1 goes healer. Therefore, one of you guys, or most of you guys, are guaranteed role, and you guys are filling up half the team. Your win percentage is going to skyrocket. How often you play your characters is going to skyrocket. So your improvement and just overall learning experience with whoever you're playing is just going to be 10 times better. Honestly, one of the biggest reasons I fell from GM so many times and get back up is because I'm just playing by myself in solo queuing. I can't predict who I'm going to run in. I can't predict my teammates. I can't predict if I'm going to get my role. Duo or trio queuing is going to eliminate a lot of that. Tip number 3 is you're going to be constantly updating your knowledge. What I mean by constantly updating your knowledge is you're going to be wanting to check patch notes. You're going to want to see what's the new trends, who are the best DPS. You're going to be watching streamers, seeing who they're playing. You're going to see what are the best combos, what's being new, what's being implemented. As someone in these high levels, you're going to have to be consistently not trying to fall behind. Because if you miss one patch, your favorite character's not as strong. This combo doesn't work anymore, or etc. You can kind of get away with it in other levels of play. Maybe Diamond's pushing it, but definitely GM plus ranks, you have to keep up with the meta. And that's going to do it for the video. If you guys like, please comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will be streaming my games as my solo queue journey continues on my way to a 1 above all. If any of you guys would like to see that, go follow the Twitch in the description below. I hope I brought some value to you guys. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.